Let me start admitting that it was quite heartening to listen to Catherine Tai, the new US Trade Representative, give her first speech back in April. She spoke about a new course for the USTR, one that envisions trade policy at the center of the Biden administration's push to tackle large existential problems, namely climate change, racial justice, and inequality. She said, and I quote her, "The science indicates that the window of opportunity to prevent a catastrophic environmental chain reaction on our planet is closing fast," she said. She said, "Comprehensive action is the only way forward, and this challenge must be at the center of US foreign policy, national security policy, and economic policy." And she said that the USTR sits at the intersection of all these three areas. Good, indeed. What a comeback from Trump denialism and brutal discourse against science and climate change. But so far, it's very much just discourse, of course, from the Biden's administration. The United States, Mexico, and Canada Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA 2.0, negotiated by Trump, is a reality. And it was voted in favor by the majority of the Democratic Party in Congress, despite that it denies the rising climate threats faced by communities across North America. Instead of reducing these problems, the USMCA seems poised to exacerbate them, replicating the same harmful provisions in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which for electoral purposes Trump had rejected. As we have exposed in our document NAFTA 2.0, a trained agenda for people and planet, that I think it's in the screen, right? According to environmental organizations that work with us, like the Sierra Club, free trade agreements like this, NAFTA 2.0, supports further outsourcing of toxic pollution and jobs to countries and regions where environmental enforcement is weak, namely Mexico, my own country. It rolls back the environmental standards, NAFTA 2.0, of past trade deals, encourages fracking, and offers dangerous handouts to oil companies and polluters. The environmental terms that are included in the deal are weak, and the enforcement system has the same failed mechanisms of the previous NAFTA. So the USMCA is not an exception. The environmental language in nearly all free trade agreements and bilateral investment agreements, the language is largely meaningless, since generally it provides protections only for government actions that are otherwise consistent with the agreement. That is, with the rest of the agreement, that is mostly clauses that promote the regulating agenda. So these agreements, the free trade agreements, seek to tie the hands of future government officials, which is the case of the Biden's administration now, or is the case of Andrés Manuel López Obrador in Mexico. They rushed the USMCA in order to tie the hands of both present presidents now, Biden and AMLO. And well, all the good environmental, in the end, all the good environmental wishes of the USMCA are they just clash with the more powerful investment protection clauses in these agreements, and namely in the USMCA. It is definitely a rigged system, the investment protection system in free trade agreements that protect transnational investments, and I say investments in quotes, because sometimes they protect not even investments that are made, but the expected future profits of companies. And this system has been continuing spreading. In 2020, despite the pandemic, there were more than 50 suits from corporations to countries in the World Bank's exit. This is a very lucrative field that runs parallel to international law and is propelled by more than 2,600 international investment treaties and free trade agreements that give corporations the right to sue governments for hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. And when I say billions, I'm talking specifically of oil companies and mining companies over public policies and regulations that they claim reduce the value of their investments, or as I said, their expected profits. So then governments have to compensate for profits they didn't make. Through this investor-state dispute settlement system, better known by its acronym ISDS, foreign investors bypass domestic courts and bring claims directly to closed-door supranational arbitration tribunals. They're not international, they're supranational, they're above governments and above states. President Joe Biden was critical of this system on the campaign trail. He stated, "I don't believe that corporations should get special tribunals that are not available to other organizations." Now that he has just selected his top trade official, Catherine Tai, he should direct her to work with other nations to swiftly protect governments from surging number of investor state cases and to start dismantling this rigged system. I don't know if I can see the next slide. Well, this slide here demonstrates how unfair the system is, how it is a neo-colonial tool. In the orange bars, you see the number of suits that the different regions of the world have received. And so you can see Middle East and North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, and Latin America. And the gray bars are where the corporations are from. So you can see that mostly are from North America, US and Canada, and Western Europe. So it is very clearly a tool of neocolonialism that ISDS represents. So therefore, and you know what? The USMCA preserved this powerful neocolonial tool for disputes between the United States and Mexico, in particular for energy companies. And the US and Canada got rid of it. So there's an increased tendency of the first world countries or powerful or rich countries getting rid of ISDS, but continue imposing it upon third world countries or developing countries. Mexico has already been heavily sued by mining companies. First Majestic Silver of Canada just announced that it will sue Mexico for $500 million. There's another US company, Legacy Vulcan, that is suing Mexico for another $5 million. And in 2019, Odyssey Mineral Exploration, another US mining company, sued Mexico for not having approved environmental permits for its seabed phosphate mining project near the coast of Baja California Sur for the enormous sum of at least $3.54 billion, billion with a B. And we can see, next graph, please, the exponential growth of suits brought by extractive industries globally. Here in this graph, you see these suits started practically in the year 2000, but you can see this line, how there are every year now around 14 or 15 extractive industries, that is oil, gas, and mining companies, suing countries, mostly in the global south. So the USMCA, I mean, just to say, Mexico has already had to pay $242 million under this type of investor state suits, but it's being sued presently for about $6 to $8 billion, right? When Mexico is attempting to revive an economy severely pummeled by the coronavirus pandemic. But this is a global phenomenon. This is happening to so many countries. Pakistan was, a company, Thaitan Mining, was from Australia, was awarded about $4 to $5 billion by a suit from Exit of the World Bank. And Pakistan has to pay that amount. And Pakistan that amount is mostly what it was receiving of a loan for the IMF to revive its economy. And Pakistan said, well, this is just going to bring a whole economy down, to have to pay what they get the loan from the IMF with all the structural adjustments imposed. And all that money has to be gone to a mining company. It's just a ridiculous system. So just to close, the USMCA, or NAFTA 2.0, represents for Mexico a deal that perpetuates the excessive powers of corporate polluters to ride over Mexican communities threatened by oil, mining, and gas projects. It does not recognize climate change at all. It therefore should be of very special attention of the Biden administration to renegotiate it again, eliminate ISDS, if, as Mrs. Tai says, they want to address the existential threat of climate change. So just let me recommend the last slide, please. We have produced this document, Extraction Casino. You can just Google it and it will come out, Google Extraction Casino IPS. And it's about how mining companies are gambling with Latin American lives and sovereignty through supranational arbitration. I'll leave it at here. I think I've taken enough time. Thank you very much.